I decided to turn on the live button because we started really kind of getting into your work a little bit. And I was like, wait. So, hi, Roz. Um, please, without further ado, would you please just tell us a little bit about yourself, your gifts, how you came to your gifts, and your experience of practicing healing, and what offerings that you have that you're sharing
Sure,
with the world right
sure.
now, please.
Yeah, so the journey, oh my gosh, where to begin? Well, to keep it short and sweet, um, my introduction into spirituality or going down the path started from lucid dreaming, actually. So my early 20s, I had this very strong curiosity about lucid dreaming. And but prior to that, I could barely dream, could barely remember my dreams. And then I started reading this book, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard. It's called The Teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda. He has a whole series of books, and he got into the art of dreaming. And so it's like, oh my gosh, I really want to try to become lucid or in control of the dreams. And I think it took me about 2 months to have my first lucid dream. And then after that, it was just like, you're birthed into this spiritual world, and I
I'm
began
writing this
tapping.
book title down. I'm like, I
Yeah,
want to be there. I want to get there. My dreams have been popping lately, but I still don't have like the control level, for lack of a better word, where I'm like
mhm.
directing or I'm driving the dream, and like that's where I want to get. So
Yeah.
it's
There's,
art of dreaming.
yeah, it's the teachings of Don Juan. I can't remember which one had the majority of the dreaming techniques in it, but
Okay,
uh, I
check it.
learned from it, and I excelled. And the cool thing about it was you begin to see that a lot of the dream dynamics, or like the dream physics of your spiritual body, you
Mm-hmm.
begin to see that a lot of those laws in the dream world actually are overlaid into this dimension. So the laws I was learning in the dream world, they had a direct impact in my waking life. There's just big there's a
I'm
lag.
laughing because in my head, I just was like, when he listened, but when he's done talking, take the tangent of trying to ask him if he's seen the movie Waking Life, and then you literally went Waking Life.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see that movie? It's pretty
I
old.
have, I have, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating. I watched it so many times back in the
Mhm.
day. Anyway,
Same.
sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, so yeah, I just excelled at lucid dreaming and began to see all these similarities, all of these qualities that would transfer over. And because that's that lag that we have, like when you go to sleep sometimes, and it's only been a few minutes, but it felt like you had this, hour-long dream.
Yeah.
That's that lag that occurs between the physical and the non-physical.
Mhm.
And anyway, just continued to learn and to grow. And that lucid dreaming phase lasted about 6 or 7 years in my early 20s. And then I had my conclusion, or what I like to call my conclusion of lucid dreaming. And I had this incredible out of body experience in the dream. And it was basically like my incarnation story through the dream world. And it was this dream I was supposed to have at this very specific time, and actually remember the feeling of being a pure, formless spirit incarnating into this dimension. And after that, I had my actual spiritual awakening, and that was catalyzed about a year and a half later. And that's what actually started me on my actual journey. Was I was getting back into lucid dreaming, and I had an out of body experience trying to conduct what's known as an astral projection or a conscious lucid dream. And I felt this little pressure release in my forehead, and I started to see these indigo geometric waves just pulse from my whole upper body. And then I began to levitate out of my bed, and this white tunnel just opens up in my bedroom. I'm completely conscious, completely lucid, and started to float up to the proverbial white light that a lot of near death experienced people speak on.
Mhm.
And that was it. The more my awareness floated off the body out, that was getting the taste of the spiritual energies for the very first time in
Wow.
this life. And it
Cool.
just changed
I
just
mean, I
changed
feel
my
like the
behavior.
only people I've heard talk about that are death or near death experiences, like at that level. I mean, I hear people talk about things like that, right? Like the tunnel coming when they meditate, or like one
Yeah.
aspect of that maybe, but not like all of that simultaneously in that state. um, QHHT or some other kind of past life regression, or
Mhm.
ayahuasca. Those are the three things I've heard people say similar things to what you just described.
Yeah, and you know what's really cool is that, that little energy that opened up in my forehead, that started me down the path. It wasn't trying to get into healing, it wasn't trying to get into anything. It was just, what did I just initiate?
Yeah,
And
like it
how do
led
I
you.
and how
Yeah.
do I do this again? And then it's kind of backtracking the whole spiritual journey,
That's so
because
cool.
it's like this is what happens when your soul is ready to leave your body. You come out and you go through the white light. And so it was just learning backwards, like, okay,
Like
I
momentum.
remember, yeah, like the first week or two I opened up that tunnel numerous times. But each time I did it, I would get this guidance on how to do it better, or just learn how to control my energy a little bit more. And then I started, and then I was almost instantly attuned to the spiritual world, began working with my spirit guides. And they, one of my first messages was, if you want to continue to go down this path, you need to purify, you need to get clean, you need to um, get your body in alignment. And
Hmm.
then it's cool, my birthday is 12/3. And then I had my first Kundalini awakening, which was on 3/12, just 3 months later.
Hmm.
And then that was a whole nother um, incredible experience that opened up, and working with Kundalini. And eventually I got into crystals. And
Were you practicing Kundalini yoga, or was it just something that happened spontaneously? Because I know it can be kind of either or both.
yeah, this one was catalyzed through a whole bunch of crystals that were on me. And then I just knew how to work with Kundalini. I had the elusive spontaneous awakening
Okay.
2 weeks before my very first official healing session. And that's where, if you haven't heard of a Kundalini awakening, there's this one where it's called the spontaneous rising. And it's just this roller coaster of energy, in which, when it gets released, it's so powerful that it's literally stronger than you are when you feel it move through you, and your ego tries to grab hold of it because it doesn't know what to do, because it's so
Yeah.
powerful. But you're just literally at the whim of this incredible force that is you, but it just seems so much stronger.
Yeah.
And
Some
but
people
no,
like shake or convulse, right? Or like even pass out. Was it like that for you, or was there something else
it was
that
more
was
of like
occurring inside of you?
this one in particular is more euphoric,
Oh,
all powerful, euphoric, like almost not endorphin rush, but this almost like this very bright, powerful energy going straight up the spine, like a dam breaking.
yeah.
Because I was using my will at a particular time to guide it. And then all of a sudden it was just like whoosh, and then it just flowed straight up into the crown. And then I was just blissed out for you know probably a day or two.
Wow.
And it's interesting when that energy gets released, because the Kundalini, it's meant to help purify your mind and purify your body. And the one thing that's really interesting is that it keeps your emotional body very stable. I remember just thinking of and having this energy flow through you, and little triggers or reactions that would cause you, to get out of balance. They were just like completely in harmony. So that was a cool. So that energy, releases over time. So,
That
but
seems
no, I haven't done no Kundalini yoga.
okay.
I mean, I've taken a handful of classes, but all this
It's
is
not like your practice or anything, or that's
no,
not the way
no.
you're doing it.
No, it's not 100%. It's not necessary, honestly. You don't have to do any Kundalini yoga to have full control over your Kundalini.
Word.
It's kind of interesting
That's
because you
great.
can't control that energy.
Mhm.
That's one of the things about it. But yeah, there's certain many awesome practices that I do from Kundalini yoga, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, no formal formal
Yeah,
learning of it.
that's cool. Yeah, I love a lot of the Kundalini chants and movements and breath work. I like to sprinkle them into my sadhana in one way or another, but I don't do a like serious Kundalini practice either. That's just you know,
Hmm.
because sometimes it can be very, I mean, some people who do Kundalini are very like focused on that. Like it becomes its own sort of um,
Yeah.
thing, you know. Um,
Yeah, I think like a lot of care is needed when you're anytime you have your breath working to kind of force that energy up or work with that energy, because if you overdo it or do like the breath of fire too much,
yeah.
you can potentially kind of fry
Dangerous,
your nervous system.
right?
So
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've heard a lot of cautionary tales about, you know,
yeah,
Kundalini gone wild, if you will.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
definitely not fun when it goes that
Yeah,
direction.
right on. So okay, so that happened. Crystals, you got into crystals. So where are we now? We're a couple like years ago, we're a decade ago.
Okay, so this is about 6 years ago. My
Okay.
awakening was in 2014, January. That's when I had my awakening. That
Then
first
I had
roll.
my awakening by birthing my first child, my son,
Oh yeah,
January
that
6th.
was very good.
Yeah. That woke me right up. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, getting attuned, working with crystals. My first Kundalini awakening was all the first 6 months of the journey, and then I just naturally began wanting to kind of transfer energy to other people, and I never heard of Reiki or anything like that. It was just really intuitive, and then I did come across Reiki,
Yeah.
and the attunements were incredible. They were so powerful, and I knew that like this was the path. And then I had this internal dilemma because I learned Reiki, but I was strongly guided to let go of it.
Yeah.
And the more I learned to develop and harness my own power, my own spiritual connections, that's when I really began to flourish into because basically, spirituality and spiritual gift are two separate things. And so I was learning how to control the gift, and that is learning how to anchor these very powerful healing guides that work with me, understanding how to direct my awareness with them and what they want of me. That's like the part of the gift. And then, obviously I have over here my own spiritual practice that I do. So yeah, letting go of all the formal teaching. Uh,
What was your job at the time? Were you doing spiritual type work or were you doing something
Oh man, no, I was building green roofs. So I was actually working in the DC area. We're
else? Okay.
installing like gardens on top of the rooftops.
Cool.
And then it was just, obviously everything happens for a reason, where the company kind of went under
Mm-hmm.
or changed ownership, and it was kind of a rough exit. But I was like, all right, well, if I'm going full time into the healing work, and I just spent just so much time meditating. Gee, I can't even tell you how many hours of meditation it took to kind of get to this level of understanding. But um, yeah, it's full time meditation and healing work, and I was really fortunate to have, you meet people you're supposed to work with.
Yeah.
I had like a dozen or so people where just we would meet. I would learn so much about how to grow my practice,
Mm-hmm.
and it just really was like meant to be with the that first couple of years of healing. um so yeah, and then I developed my own practice, and started teaching events, started teaching workshops, moved into really wanting to teach on how my awareness came to where it is now. And I think
Yeah.
that's like one of my gifts as well, is understanding the structure to the formless.
Yeah.
And so I teach a 16-week class on how the mind evolves and everything that I needed to know that allowed me to attain these levels. So yeah, I teach that class. It'll be starting in September, which I'll have that on my website as well.
That's really cool. I think a lot of us feel called to learn, unlearn, and then teach. You know, like I think, especially when it comes to like Reiki and even like, you know, getting traditional, like I'm a yoga teacher too, like traditional yoga training and this and that. I think it's always so great to get that. And like you said, learn to sort of put structure around
Hmm.
things, anchor them, right? Understand form. and how it all
Yeah.
like that it's a thing,
Yeah.
like what is it, kind of just like getting the structure around it a little bit. And then it's almost like we dismantle it, and then we come into our sovereign gifts of our sovereign, would you say, practices or offerings that are just
Hmm.
coming straight in through spirit or through our higher selves. And then we want to share that, right? Because it's like, oh wow, like this is, you just know, like these are things that helped you along the way and could help other people, and you can become so much more of a conduit by having other people then go spark this in them,
Hmm.
and then it like grows so fast, and that's really beautiful.
Because what's interesting is that, like, we have a little bit of an echo chamber in the spiritual community, because we all
Mhm.
see each other's work, we all see each other's events and kind of what we're doing, but the truth is that in the West right now, where we are brand new in spirituality. This is all new for us. And obviously a lot of us come here with incredible wisdom from our past lives and such, but we don't have like a learned lineage or culture or having our elders or access to elders who have given their lives to mastering being a human, as you have in India and you have in the East. So that's what a lot of us are trying to do, is we're trying to lay down some form of structure,
Yeah,
some form of discipline. But we're learning as we go, especially you know us indigos. um, it's like we're teaching, we're learning, but we're still going through all of our shadow work. We're still getting into harmony. So it's a really interesting place because, you know, we don't really have any like learned masters over here who have, as I said, have dedicated their
yeah,
whole
that's such
life.
a good point. It's like we're reinventing the wheel,
Yeah.
of this like really like, and I shouldn't use this word, but I feel like apocalyptic perspective. Like there's this whole, we have this whole, I feel like there's this like Mad Max healing.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like this
it's a
whole
blueprint.
new starting. It's, we're learning things or relearning or remembering things that, are established in other lineages, like
Mhm.
you're saying, in other places in the world. But it's like with these other kind of eyes or this other kind of lens or perspective,
Mhm.
and sort of marrying it, for our day and time and age and location.
Mhm.
And it's really unique. It's cool. It gives me this like 80s feel. I don't even know if I'm describing this like in a way that would make sense to anyone else. In my head, like I categorize it in this like punk rock healing, like
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all brand new,
vanguard.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and that's, that's the thing with all, that's why, it's so important, in the spiritual community, it's so important to find actual human, or to connect with ascended masters who were human, because you feel that lineage within their vibration.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't really have, is a lot of these other masters from the East that I've followed or learned from, is you learn through resonance. That's how you're going to grow. That's how I've made my biggest um
Great.
my biggest growth. It's not through learning, it's not through reading, it's through learning through the vibration and feeling from when you connect with one of these individuals who was in human form. And that's what changes people. It's like, yeah, we talk, we give lessons, but on the energetic level, you're transferring energy. When people connect to you and people watch our videos, it's more of like a domino effect, where there's a transfer of energy that's happening, and there's this slow spiritual catalyst that's just billowing out to everyone, from that person who's putting off that strong spiritual catalyst. That's what I stressed a lot, is that's what we're after spiritual catalyst. The soul, can only evolve with certain experiences within our normal waking life.
Yeah.
So if you want to make it to a more expansive level, there's only a few ways you can do that, and going to see a healer, or having an out of body experience through dreaming, there's only a couple, or a near death experience. There's only a few ways that the soul can catalyze itself. And that's actually a big inspiration for my new work right now, is through my remote connections, where we were talking before we started the show, where with the whole pandemic and everyone's quarantined and staying to themselves, and no more events and workshops, when that was all going down, is think about how we can, give back more to the community. And so that's what started my community healing. And I mentioned the first one, there was, a little under 200 people connected together. The next one, we had over 400 people. And to feel that many people together waiting, to receive this energy, it was one of the most powerful experiences that I've ever had, the blessing, the honor to be a part of. But that energy, it just gets absorbed into the collective. And yeah, so it's, that soul has that natural calling to want that energy, and it takes that energy from these sessions. And over time, as a progression, people evolve into this work that, so many of us are trying to put out there. So
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah,
Great
the
descriptions. It's pretty awesome thinking about it like that. It's like the images I'm seeing in my mind are like these like grids of people like being like turning the lights on in the grid or like lighting the people up, and then like that spreading to the next grid. Like then the
yeah,
grid gets lit up over there, and like and it just starts to all
and one,
uh,
that's what I'm saying. And like one thing real quick is that,
everyone
like,
who just joined.
one awakened person is so valuable to the collective. That's like everyone matters, everyone counts. Even though, a lot of people are just meditating on their own, it's okay. Like, you are contributing just by doing your own healing and coming into your own alignment. You are affecting
Yes.
so much. It's so important.
Yeah, and I almost feel like it's worth similar to what we were kind of already saying, but like in working on yourself and healing yourself, doing all of your own work, it's like worth more than like, you know, healing 10 people or, it's like, because
Mhm.
it's everyone you encounter. It's everyone you touch. It's everything, it's not just that one isolated incident, another and another. It's like your being,
Everywhere you
being
go too,
messed
like
up.
like it's like your field creates a magnetism, a very strong gravity on the other spiritual sides. Everywhere you go, you are giving light codes, you are giving catalyst, when you get into your high vibration, going to the grocery store, going to a restaurant, everywhere you go, your energy is affecting the whole.
Right. True
Mhm.
for all of us, but like if you're conscious of it and you've healed or you've transmuted or you're in a space that you're affecting the frequency in a positive way, like
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing to be able to do, without if you don't feel called to be actively like that's your profession, I'm a healer, I'm a teacher of this, if you just want to light it up on your own,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
go for it, that's even better. So it's beautiful, yeah. And people, it's funny because people go through this though, and I think there is a perception that like it's really all cool, and then you go through it and it's just really hard.
Mhm.
And the way that when you shift and the way you affect other people, even strangers, like it's not always great, and that magnetism isn't always necessarily something you want. Sometimes you just want to put the like invisibility cloak over you. Whether it's that people want to talk to you, or they really have a problem with you, or whatever it may be, because it affects everyone in a different way.
Mhm.
um, and that's a really interesting journey, as we shift to see how the world around us shifts as well.
Yeah. Yeah, as you attract a whole variety of different types of energies. As soon
Yeah.
as you start putting it out there,
Yeah.
people want to, tell you everything about their lives. People want to,
Right.
they want support and help, but
Or
uh,
they're like, no,
yeah.
like, ew, they're just like, get, I don't even, or I know sometimes for me, I think a lot of us feel this way who are in this field or who are drawn to this kind of work, that you just kind of always dance to the beat of a little bit different drum. Like,
Mhm.
just,
Mhm.
even just a little, like, just feel like you're a little, the weird one, or whatever, or the wild one, or I don't know. But yeah, sometimes just even, I feel like I catch the way someone's just looking at me, and
Mhm.
they're just like baffled by my existence. Like, yeah, like what? I don't, it does not compute, and it's not good or bad. It's just like a confusion or a like, no, it's really interesting. Like I'm sure
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
experienced it, you
It,
know.
it causes such visceral reactions in some
Yeah.
people. But that's, that's the beauty, is that, like, you're having your effect on people, and that, it's good for them to be exposed to, someone who's more spiritual, or putting out that type of energy, because it needs to be seen, it needs to be more known. And so everyone's doing their part just by going out and telling people their beliefs and telling how they feel.
Yeah.
It really,
Or just
really does
living a
help.
certain way, you know, like it
Yeah.
becomes like obvious in some things, in some ways,
Hmm.
or you know, the ways you're in it, a pain in the ass, like sorry, I won't eat at that restaurant, or like
Hmm.
you know, just the ways that you show up sometimes, you know, can really like glitch in the matrix, you know, what's happening here? And then everybody kind of like will react, and that's fun sometimes, but also sometimes like, oh man, I just, you know, you just, I guess I should just be regular today. You know, they have all those like memes about like the alien taking off the person suit when they go home. You know,
Yeah.
you feel that way
Yeah,
once
yeah,
in a
a little
while. You
bit,
know, not always, but
that's for sure.
it's
That's
not
for
boring though. You know, and that's cool. Yeah. So okay, so now we're pretty much sped up to current
hmm.
times, right? So you've been building up, you said, over the past year or so, this
Yeah, yeah,
special kind of healing, like, and it's virtual, it's remote, right?
yeah, yeah. So, I think it started last August, where, so I've always been working with crystals. Every event I do, I would have some type of application where crystals would be used for
Yeah.
everyone. And I started getting more into grids. And so I'd been building grids for some time, but this one particular event in August, it was actually my very first event where I did a transfer of energy to the group. But I
Okay.
built a grid beforehand to kind of help with everything, and something different happened. The Earth's core had made itself known to me while I was helping program this grid, and I hadn't seen this before, but uh, learning how to connect the grid to the core created this entire change of events. And it opened up a whole new way of working with the grids, working with the crystals that I'd never seen before. I've the years and years of working with the crystals. And then so I was like, oh man, I need to continue this progress. So over that, over since last August, I've been working more with those grids, learning about that process of tuning the grid specifically. And then it got to the point where, oh man, it's so complicated, but learning how to build this grid, connect it to in this way that I've never seen before, and basically it turns into like a generator that's connected to your and synced to your consciousness.
Okay.
So it's like working with you and a part of you, but at the same time it's external.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got, then we get into the whole virus thing, and everyone's, shut down. So then it was like, I need to capitalize on my remote work and start building offerings. And it started with just on my email list. I asked, about 30 people. I wanted to try a new way of connecting. And I built this grid, had this really incredible quartz point that I use. And
Where do you get your
then
crystals? Do you sell them? Do you know people that have mines? Like, do you have a place that you love to go?
I was deep in the crystal business before, but it was just too much to keep up with.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I don't really sell them anymore. Here and there, sometimes I'll bring some. I'll have like a few selections, like some of
Yeah.
my favorite ones. But no, I wanted to get out of that because it was a lot to manage. And now I'm just more into buying very specific pieces.
Okay.
So I do know a few dealers out there that have an amazing stock. So I use it more for application, not really for selling anymore.
Cool.
Um,
There's a lot of crystal lovers in this group, including me. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
inquiring
do
minds
have
want to know, you know.
some cool connections out there that I would love to share. Yeah, and then then I got into remote healing and wanted to try out this new technique. I tried out my first test group, and incredible results immediately. I knew I had stumbled upon something really, really powerful. opened up a whole new way of connecting remotely. It's not my normal way of doing, like my private one-on-one sessions. It's something completely new. And I wanted, we were talking before we began. I wanted to find a new way to help give back to the community. Everyone, so many people got hurt, and their lives changed from, these world events. So I wanted a way to help give back to the community in the ways that I can. And so I started the first, I think it was the April one, April 20th. I did the first community healing, and it was amazing. It was a great success. We had nearly 200 people joined together. And then I did another one in May, and that one came through, and it was literally one of the most powerful um, energy workings I've ever been a part of. The amount, I mean, I wish I could share that many people connected to this grid and what that feels like in like a, a 20 by 20 room. I mean, it was like radiating, almost like radiation.
Mm.
And you know that was the start. I was like, wow, this is it. So I wanted to put together a formal offering. So I have a monthly subscription in which, for a really fair price, people come in, get 2 hours of healing every month that focuses on that spiritual catalyst energy.
Hmm.
And then the second healing in the month is a more of a restorative healing energy, because two catalyst energies, I learned from
Yeah.
all the feedback I was getting that it was going to be too strong and too much. So it has a nice balance of catalyst and restoration. And so that started it, and it's been going so strong. It's been so beautiful. I still have community events as well. The next one is going to be in August. But
So they're two separate things. Like one's a subscription that's a group offering. Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That
one's a,
two times a
yeah,
month do you pay a monthly like fee, and then
yeah,
twice a month there's one catalyst and one grounding 2 hour
yeah.
session for the
Yeah,
group.
my offering is two sessions a month. It's 30. It's for the I'm actually running a special right now where
Okay.
the first 50 people were getting 33 a month for the two 1 hour sessions. And I
Nice.
have a whole menu
Two
of
1 hour.
different,
Okay.
yeah, I have a whole menu of the different energies we work with each month, that correspond to energies I've worked with. Like angelic healing is coming up this 21st on the solstice eclipse. So it's going to be so it's going to be so powerful. It's going to be amazing. And then separate from the service of the two monthlies, I have the community ones I do for free periodically, and that one is going to be in August. So um, as I said, if anyone wants to join, I'm doing a special. It's only 33 a month for the 2 hours.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just been gaining so much steam, and I really feel that over time that work is gonna it's gonna help people grow and learn, and discover there's so much more than just like feeling. Normally when people think of receiving healing, they think of like, oh, that's gonna feel really good, that's gonna feel really relaxing, but there's so much more to energy work and getting your past in harmony. A lot of how I've come into my harmony is through harmonizing all my shadow, doing the shadow work. That's where I put most of my effort into harmonizing my energy. And so a lot of the work I do, it draws up, the things, the behaviors, the emotions that are unwanted within the individual, and it kicks that out. It pushes that right to the surface, and sometimes very challenging ways, but it's all within a harmonic programming. And so this is really deep healing that comes through with these transmissions, and the element of being able to grow in a group. I constantly hear feedback from everyone saying that they notice and appreciate that they can feel it's within the group. And so each individual that comes in is just helping grow and enrich everyone else's experience. So it's just a beautiful harmony and network that we're all growing and achieving. And Yeah, it's just
So
starting. I'm still
cool.
learning how
Where do
to.
you hold it? Do you hold it on, is the group on Facebook and then you do Facebook lives for these healings, or is it like off of Facebook on like a Zoom, or how do you do it?
I am see that's the thing is like I'm trying to not rely on the live media because there's actually no need to have it because I set up a very specific time.
I record my stuff. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like we're like I basically with the group we have very specific times
mhm,
where it's from 7 to 8 and just from that time frame that's when the energy comes in and
mhm.
connects. So I've tried cuz like being in front of a computer or having myself on a live stream, it's actually taking away from
I
their
think about
ability to.
that sometimes too. It does
Mhm.
take away.
It's
Um,
a double-edged sword, it help
yeah, I've
obviously
done
it
it
helps
both ways.
hmm
And I've thought about it a lot lately. It's like when you just lay down and receive, and then you do the work, and then you kind of debrief it, or you speak about it after.
yeah, yeah. So I'm learning how to add value because I will have some live streamed, but for the most part, I'm trying to keep it as pure as we can. And and as people have described, you'll feel it like soon as 7 p.m. rolls around,
That's so
it's a
cool.
really noticeable
It's
force
Eastern
that
Standard
comes through.
Time, right?
I'm
7
sorry.
p.m. 7 p.m. EST.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern times are always the times that we work. But the next one that I'll do live and recorded will be for the August one, the big, the Lionsgate. And I'm really, really excited about the Lionsgate. I'm gonna do. I'm. I believe I am still a little tentative at the moment, but I'm looking to do a 2 to 3 day event for this one, back to back to back.
Oh.
um, and I'm really excited, man. August it truly is one of the most powerful times of the year. I've
Mhm.
paid attention to it since I got into this life path, and it
Mhm.
really is time and time again. I leave myself unbiased towards the months, but August really is a
Yeah,
very powerful time.
we do
So there is a
cycle, and
window.
we shift in cycles, so it's something to it, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, the next one will be August. I'll have that one live streamed and ready to go. So
That is awesome. And you didn't have, these kind of proclivities when you were like really young, or did you? Did you have stuff that you just kind of pushed aside, or
you
throughout your
know,
career?
I think about that fairly often, and there were a couple things that were always there from childhood, and that was my awareness. I've
Mhm.
always had this very keen awareness of observation, um, and that's stuck with me through my whole life. Is always being able to read people through their, I guess, like through the energy they're putting off. But I never had any definitions or terms for that when I was younger, so I didn't understand it was anything out of the ordinary. But basically, to make it in more simpler terms, I could understand people's sincerity levels.
Right. No, I feel
I could
that.
that
You
there's
have
like
some
this
Scorpio
meter.
in your birth chart.
Scorpio.
I thought to myself, I feel like that's
My
a Scorpio thing.
my south node is in Scorpio.
Oh, okay.
I think that's my only Scorpio in my chart.
Really? Minus the transits and things like that with Pluto, which I don't. I mean, maybe but I don't know that
I
stuff
don't know
off the
too
top
much.
of my
I don't know
head.
too much about the astrology, but just a little bit. I'm a Sagittarius, Aries moon, and an Aquarius rising.
Okay.
Um, so for those out there that like
Yeah.
and then
Like to know, right?
mhm.
Yeah, sometimes it's fun to play around with that stuff. I don't know the depth of getting into like things like transits, or secondary
Astrology, yeah, it's a lot of information to
It
take in.
is. It's like a
It's,
science.
mhm.
There's crazy things that come up in charts that I'm like, how could you possibly know that? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of a textbook, not a textbook, but like a little roadmap. So,
I love it. I wish I could learn more. I mean, it amazes me every time when someone reads my chart or tells me a little bit more detail about what's
mhm.
happening. I'm like, wow, this is just
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
we
Yeah,
really are
that
we're affected by all the astrology. It definitely has its beautiful. pulse that it rolls through us that, keeps every single day beautiful and unique.
Mm,
That's what I've learned, is that every day is different.
yeah.
Every time, every full moon, every eclipse, every power day, every one is different. And it's just, it adds to the gratitude and appreciation I have for life, and
Yeah.
for just that this truly is a creation, and that there's so many mysteries and puzzles within the creation that when you connect with the creator and God, um, you just, you can't not have gratitude. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing the way our mind is evolving, and to see the harmony between our own awakening, how we relate to nature, and how nature is in constant communion with us, and how that syncs to our mind and our journey. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah, I think it's funny because it's really obvious in a lot of ways when you sit and think about it, but like just the level of miracle that life is, it's
It's a
like
beautiful word for it. That's exactly what it
crazy,
is.
and it's like we all say it, it's said as like almost in a cliched way, like all the time. But there's something about really being able to experience it that way or really see it in that lens that's um, it's almost like you have to take time to work to uncloud your eyes to really see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what that's part of the spiritual path, is like you're re-remembering what you truly are. You're, understanding you already have this enlightened self connected to you. And so it's a lot of the growth is letting go of what you think you are, letting go of your past, letting go of your troubles and your emotional wounds, and just letting go of the stories that we tell ourselves
Mhm.
about ourselves. Because
Mhm.
that ego, it just grips its claws into
Yeah.
certain life experiences and parameters of what it thinks it is. But once you start to let go of that ego, you start to tune into the fact that your awareness is so far beyond your physical body, that it's just, uh the tiniest piece of our awareness is within us. The majority that we're connected to is outside of our body. You just continue down that path, and you realize your mind, your awareness is everything. You are everything. You're the
Yeah.
participant, you're the creator, you're the one, the
Never.
individual I, and it just keeps going, um, to what your ego is comfortable with.
Right,
But
Roz? I know. She's like that part. Yeah. That's a part we're all working towards, right? Working on. So
it,
amazing. And, these little, I think a lot of things that spark it in us, besides those, healing experiences or near death experiences, is experiencing life and death, birth and death in our culture, in our environment, in our society, and interpersonally. I mean, I think about people I've talked to and the way their lives have been shifted or changed. And so many people, it's around ending and beginning life
mm-hmm.
in one way or another. Like I think about one of my biggest shifts was my dad transition from cancer,
Yeah, yeah.
and the experience of going through that, of all of the parts of it, but um, experiencing the death, and then experiencing birth was one of my other, really big shifting to understand the miraculousness, for lack of another
Mm-hmm.
word, of life. And just like, gosh, we take a lot of things for granted that it's just like, holy shit, amazing, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel like, again, I don't want to like just bust out cliches up here, but there's just something about how visceral and beautiful our existence is here on earth, how rich it is, and
Mm-hmm.
you get a feeling, you were saying, like, working with those masters who have walked, right, in earth bodies, and understanding that, like, we come here to be able to feel the things we feel, and even if it's pain, even if it's heartache or whatever it is like we came specifically because we couldn't get that stuff anywhere
Yeah,
else.
it's
um,
true.
and
The
that's
soul
like,
loves it.
oh.
That's one of the things when I start, learning more about the higher power and the soul, and that's unfortunately the spectrum of emotion is just absolutely loves, you know, the the trying times,
Mhm.
the pain, the accomplishment, the challenge, the adversity,
Yeah.
the taking a negative experience and alchemizing it into something positive. Those experiences from a soul's point of view are just like incredible. It's like, look at what I get to do.
Yeah.
I'm eternal. None of this is ever going to hurt me down here, you know. But I get to have this incredibly beautiful experience of being in the physical body and feeling the highs and lows and everything in between. For those who are aware of like past lives, they say time and time again that we like to be the victor, we like to be the loser, we like to be um, all parts of the human perspective, the abuser, the abused, everything in between. We have such a wide perspective from a soul's plane of view, and like everything is okay, everything is not what it seems. We're all just having these beautiful experiences. um, so yeah, that's something that from the past life books, is that we like everything, we want to experience everything before we're done in our earthly bodies. And that's what leads us into this very specific time frame, is that a lot of us are ready to go. A lot of us are say, all right, this is the ascension times. This is a very powerful window in which the amount of growth and harmony that we can experience at a rapid level is only every, was it like every 25,000 years this time frame happens. um, so we're taking this window of opportunity, all that wisdom and experience we've had throughout those at those concurrent or past lives, or whatever your paradigm once is
Hmm.
this is the time to bring it all back into harmony and
Right.
to have a beautiful evolution into love, into the harmonization process of what love does to the body. So, if you want the easiest formula to mastering ascension, is the answer is always going to be love. If you have a question about what you should you do next, how do you heal yourself, love is going to be in the answer. And that's a part of us being in the third dimensional consciousness, is that we are in a disharmonic state.
Hmm.
It's like a frequency, we're vibrating in a disharmonic way. And so the harmonic frequencies are what's needed to be superimposed
Hmm.
and to be vibrated back out. And there's only a couple frequencies that will do that, and that's love, that's gratitude, that's compassion. Pick any of those and your whole life will come into harmony. And that's the easiest way to put it, is just to vibrate those couple emotions. And the more you get into it, the more it draws out what needs to be known, what needs to be acknowledged and learned from.
Hmm.
So it's this really cool, uh, beautiful experience that happens when you vibrate in this light, and it pulls the little splinters out of your energetic body. And
Amazing.
just as a quick note, I wanted to say, like, on that type of context I was describing, one of the last group healings, that's exactly what it felt like, where I was just radiated with just the purest white, positive, crystalline energy, and just vibrating for so long, to feel I could, like, literally in real time feel, you know, the harmonization that's occurring just from conducting the event. And um, yeah, it's just a beautiful design in which our
Yeah.
mind evolved.
It's such a gift to do the work, like you get so
Oh,
much.
yeah,
You get so much. It
it's
comes
so
through
grateful.
you, literally. So, you're like, ah. It's
Yeah.
nice. It's a really good work hazard, if you will.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's the other thing, is like I wanted to give a little shout out to all the healers who are out there doing this. Like, what many people don't really realize at times is what happens to us having to go through these things. Because when I did the one back in May, um, it probably took close to a week for me to heal just from conducting that event.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, probably about 5 days.
Yeah, when we hold space for others, right? And there's also sort of the element of how much devotion
Mhm.
and discipline, for lack of another word, and consistency, and just like dedication it takes to really put yourself into a space that you can transmit, in a clean, clear way, in a way that's really benevolent, through love.
Yeah,
And that too, so there's like a lot that comes that's in the
yeah.
background,
Oh
before the
yeah.
actual hour.
Because like a lot of my spiritual connection comes through my third eye, and that's connected to the pineal gland and so forth. But when that when that energy in me gets too open, it puts you in this, oh man, this really uncomfortable state, very similar to, I don't know, to those who've ever done a hallucinogen. But you're just in this present moment, and it's like it takes so much discipline to learn how to ground and
Mm,
to get um, your energy back into your body. My eyes will literally dilate from when that energy releases. And I actually have a picture on my Instagram where I was just doing a healing session, and to have control over, uh, loose control over that gland, to actually have that energy release into my body, my eyes literally, grow and dilate. But when those events happen, when you're not ready for it, or you're still doing your shadow work, or you're still coming into your own life, I mean, it is a lot to manage.
yeah,
um wouldn't trade it for anything. But I mean, it's not all rainbows and
no,
sunny days.
yeah.
It's a lot of struggle, and to grasp with being in the present moment.
Mhm.
Because you're like, it feels like you're frozen in the present moment when you get this hyper stimulated sense of your awareness. And for a lot of are the healers and meditators out there, like, learning to ground becomes the most important aspect of your practice. Getting your energy reconnected to your body, that becomes like your, like, prerogative, your main goal.
Mhm.
So the more, I teach in my class that security is the foundation to your higher consciousness. So when you're building your spiritual practice, you want to get as secure as you can, because the more secure you are, the higher you'll be able to ascend and to grow. So, yeah, security is a big part of my practice. Is what can I do to get myself more secure, being in a physical body,
Yeah.
and quoting the law of one, that is the question that balances your root chakra, is, do I feel comfortable being alive? Simple question. And if you don't feel comfortable, what can you do
So,
to change that?
so right. So good. I never heard
And
that quote, but
you just start there.
spot
And
on. Yeah.
that's where I begin my teaching for the program. Is
Mhm.
this is where you begin in your consciousness. It begins in your root chakra. It begins in your self-preservation. you know and so, as I said, I like to do a lot of my work comes from harmonizing the shadow and harmonizing misaligned energy. So it's, what can you do to become more secure? And that's what grows everything above that.
So we have some comments here. Michael was saying, "What a powerful time! What powerful times we are in." And Patricia Edwards said, "What a blessing! Joy is consistent living from a higher perspective, thought, and choice. You literally have an angel in front of you, Gia. That's so
Thank
sweet."
you.
And then
Definitely
Michael
my
says,
angel.
"Absolutely anchoring and securing these frequencies." And then Ross has a question. Any advice on grounding while doing the spiritual work as a light worker?
Okay, so to be more grounded, so having a better relationship with nature, you know having been, stuck in my meditation spaces for so long, I developed like these deficiencies of, like, being outside, getting my bare feet on the ground. And that has become so valuable to me now, is getting my bare feet on the ground. I do a lot of walking. I walk, at least a couple miles every day. um, and then this is like a catch 22, because we want to be more secure, so we actually have to figure out what's making us insecure. So your biggest insecurities in your life are causing you not to be grounded and not to feel comfortable. So there's that non-physical aspect, and then there's the aspect of getting my feet outside, getting exercise, Epsom salt, scrubs. I do a lot of Epsom salt that really helps clear me. Um, Physical work. Um, I got back, I dropped down, got really thin at one point because I wasn't taking into consideration my physical body. So I started working out again, put
Mm-hmm.
on like 10 or 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, having that physical body practice is really important to me because when that third eye gets too open, man, it's so easy to get ungrounded and have it get completely pulled off. I actually had a really challenging experience one time where I got sick from uh, too much massage, or not, it wasn't massage, it was like a myofascial release.
Okay.
And I had this practitioner, they were working on me, and I wanted them to keep getting these blockages out, and it just dumped all this lymphatic waste into my body. Long
Oh,
story short, I got really sick, and when I was so tired, I actually felt what it's like to like I guess to cross over because I just let
oh,
go. I was so tired, and my awareness was dangerously far away from my body. And I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to die and to just really just let go of the body. And immediately was jolted by my spirit guides, like, nope, not yet, not just yet. Get back in that body. But that experience left me with the perspective of what it would be like to actually let go of your body.
Mm,
And actually, we do it every night when you go to sleep.
right.
So it's nothing you really haven't done, but that perspective of feeling that, it's like, oh man, I need to have be more responsible with keeping my energy close to my body and grounded and secure. And um, one last thing is I always have awareness of my feet. That's another good one. Whenever I do it holding a crystal or any type of practice, I always have my energy under my body, a constant awareness of having my whole body in on the experience.
I think also having, and I say a schedule, but I don't think it has to be a schedule. I think it just has to be like regular touch points of things that you consistently come back to. So whether it's like a meditation practice or a walking outside barefoot daily or a, water drinking or bath with Epsom salt, whatever it may be, that you have sort of these um, is it practices, or I think as a sadhanas from a yogic term,
Mm-hmm.
that's like, this is your spiritual walk and it's consistent. And that consistency, is really powerful. I think people,
Yeah.
it's something in the light working field, like it's not as common for
Mm-hmm.
things, and I tie it back to like, so when I was in the corporate world, I was doing staffing and um, working for other people, working in, in an office and so forth. And in the rat race, if you will, it was, there's a very much a schedule. I mean, to a fault, to a point of where it's like traumatic. I really feel like it's traumatic to our body and soul,
Oh
like the
yeah.
life that most of us live. Um, and I feel like even now today, and I've been, let's see, I left working for others in 2014. My son was born, but still had a staffing business with a colleague or friend. But we were at home. But still, we're still in there, right?
Mhm.
Responding to people in business hours and things like that. And it wasn't until 2 years ago that I've been like fully in doing this work and only this work, right? Yoga
Mhm.
teaching, healing practices, teaching, etc. And I still have this, like, for lack of a better term, PTSD, or like this remembrance of, oh my god, I'm not doing something right now and it's 2 p.m. Or, even if I worked all day on a Sunday, or if I, but not being in that schedule of like the matrix schedule, and not being on that same timeline in that way, it takes so much undoing. And there's guilt, and there's almost like survivor's guilt. I can't even explain it exactly, but there's this like feeling of like, I'm not supposed to relax, I'm not supposed to be out in nature right now, like this isn't allowed, like I'm cheating something, or I'm like, um
Yeah.
like I'm calling out sick on the whole matrix.
just so like, and it shows you just how easy it is for us to be impressed upon every day when we're
Yeah,
not really thinking. Like we're being programmed by our behavior
yeah,
every day, regardless of if we know it or not.
yeah.
So going back and having to release those cords, release that wiring, it's almost like, part of this type of healing work is you almost have to re-experience that pain to
Mhm.
release the wiring. And that's
Yeah.
something that I learned is that, especially with like a PTSD or some type of deep emotional wound, is that going back in is painful, but it's necessary to get your awareness underneath that disharmonic frequency and pull it back out.
Hmm.
So just like a splinter, the exact same way as a splinter is going to hurt a little bit to pull it out, but then you have that relief. You're like, ah,
Right.
you know.
Right. But then you like don't have that to rely on and tell you what to do when and how to do it and for how long and with what intensity and blah 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 blah. So then you have to like put in your own like your sovereign schedule, your sovereign like way of being. That's what you're from your original DNA, original blueprint of like what you came to, how you came to do it here
Hmm.
originally, like what the plan was. And so
Yeah.
that takes its own. And I think that's where a lot of light workers get like lost in that middle place where they can't, it's hard to establish their own, but they've let go of the other.
And part of what it takes to master being human is we're trying to get out of that thinking body. We're trying to let go of the constant need to analyze and to be in the worry or be in the future, and it's mastering faith. The frequency of what faith actually feels like, that's a huge part of what it takes to master being human, because this isn't the dimension of knowing. This isn't the dimension where you have to know how everything works. It's the dimension of choosing. You have to choose to want to be of service and to grow and to evolve. In your choice, you make your choice and say, I want to do this for my life. I want to go down this path. And it's your faith that helps carry you through that when it gets tough, when it gets trying. It's the mind that comes through and wants to break the channel of the original intention. It
Yeah.
says, I wanted to have this goal, but then it gets a little bit difficult. But that's where faith is really important, because I'm sure all of us, when we first start taking light working or doing energy work, for example, everyone in the beginning time says, is this working? Am I doing it? Is
Right.
anything happening?
Yeah.
And that's the ego. Is you have that original intention and you're surrendering to it, but as you have that channel open, that ego just comes right back around and says, wait a second, I want to do it over. I need to re-invocate.
To be
I need to
perfect in
retest.
a way that's coming from the outside, not the inside. I have to live up to something else. All that conditioning comes up in us from society or how we parent or even, whatever, it all just comes back to us like, oh, but not like that. Oh, but you're not good enough. Oh, but it's about you. And, and all of that, it's like as soon as you step into faith or you soon as let go of like you controlling it or you being the one who directs it, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, it's not me anyway. I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it so much, like I don't have to worry about like, was I right? Or, you just trust that whatever came through was what was meant to come through and that's it. Like, that's it. And that's the hardest thing to come around to, right? Because like it comes from a really good place, right? Of like wanting to do a good job and help people
Mhm.
and not like mess them up or whatever, right? Like, but that's a power ego thing. So it's
Mhm.
like circumventing that or like working through that to like come back to the like, okay, I take my hands off, um,
Yeah.
and then I know
Yeah.
it's okay, and that feels really good. So
Yeah.
that's
Quite
probably a
the.
good place for us to stop since it's after 1.
Oh,
We're
sure,
just
sure.
getting we're just getting warm. I felt like. So tell us before we go. Thank you, Lisa. She said, "I love this. Being in faith is what we need." It's hard though. It is hard. Yeah, it's like the hardest, but then so simple. Like the Indigo Girls say, the hardest to learn is the least complicated. I
Mm.
think they're totally right about that in so many
Yeah,
levels.
it's true.
So where can we find you? You know, make sure, please make sure if you want, to come into the group with, you know, the group that people can join to do this healing twice
Sure,
a
sure.
month, and everything
Yeah,
else that you offer, that so that we have easy access to it, quick links, you know, make it easy for
yeah,
us.
we'll do. Yeah, as soon as we end, I'll put a link up on that on the group page. But yeah, the last offering is or the next one is going to be June 21st, and this is the subscription monthly service, the 2 healings a month. If you want to get involved, my website has a link, and I still have a special right now for it's only 33, and
Sweet.
it's josephadamshealing.com, and you'll see at the top tab the group remote healing. So
Okay.
that's my main offering. That's what I've been putting all of my time and
Wow.
my skill set into, just learning how to connect larger and larger groups together. And there's some beautiful testimonials on the website as well. And yeah, and oh, and
Yeah,
I do
he
have a
worked on me once. I didn't tell everyone though, so I should
yeah.
have brought it up before we go, I should say. So Joey was looking for a vegan, like non-GMO vegan shake, right?
I
And
think that's what it was.
what's that?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And I was like, oh, I'll send you some Juice Plus, because I have like a handful of things that I sell at this time, like 5 or 6 different products that I like and use. And so I sent them to you, and you were like, well, I have to give you something back. And I was like, though, that's a first. Like, people never are like, let me pay you for the samples you send me. No. So thank you. And he was like, let me give you a quick healing. And this was a while ago.
Yeah, this was
And I
back in
remember you were like, yeah, you had a cord wrapped around you. And I was like, you know, I see cords all the time, but I've never seen it, like perceived it wrapped around someone like that. And that is so interesting to think about. It makes sense. And I remember that really stuck out for me.
oh, very nice.
And yeah, it was a really lovely healing too. And it was very generous. So we had a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
conversation. Like, I look back on it because we hadn't really chatted since then.
Mhm.
So I looked back at Messenger and was like, oh my God, this is such a cool conversation that we had 2 years ago or whenever it was,
Yeah, it's
a year ago, I
amazing.
don't know.
Yeah,
So
thank
thank
you for
you.
sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so it's good stuff. So I'm sure, I imagine, and I try to tune in. I have, so 7 o'clock is like the height of dinner bedtime at my with my crew. So I can only be like, I can be there on the astral, but not
Yeah.
really like in the person, when during those times. So you let me kind of pop in on the last one, and I did feel better that night, even though I couldn't really connect with all my intentions. So I'm sure just for me doing in the tiny side of me, I still felt a really positive
Mhm.
result from it. So I imagine like tuning into it is wonderful, amazing, and powerful. So
Yeah,
I'm very,
one day we'll get you on there where
yeah,
you can relax and
I
enjoy.
gotta get in that. Once in a while I get like a bath during that time, where like the night just works out perfectly with the kids, the husband, everything. And I'm like, I'll be upstairs, CBD bath bomb all day. And that helps. That's when I can do it. So maybe one of those times will
Yeah,
be on
yeah,
top one of those times. It'll be
just let
perfect.
me
So
know, and we'll get it all set up.
yeah, so I can't wait. But thank you so much for being here, and for sharing with us. It was such a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, it was so nice to talk to you. So
Yeah.
nice to talk. It was
So
wonderful
bye
to be here.
everyone, and thank you.
Thank you.